discuss all of that, Henry Newman, who's former advisor to the Ministry of Justice and Cabinet Office, and also Chris Wilkins, who's the former Director of Strategy and Chief Speechwriter to Theresa May. Chris, to you first of all, if you were in number 10 this morning, what advice would you be giving Theresa May about how to spin this to the House?
Well, I'm not sure it's about spinning. It's about sort of, in many ways, delivering the same message that she's been delivering for quite some time, which is sort of her style. Nothing has changed, but the message is simple, which is, you know, as she said last night, she has voted 3 times now to leave the European Union, and if MPs who want to do so had voted in the same way, then we would have left by now. So I think she'll be challenging MPs to say that we have been given this extension now, but we don't really want to use it. And actually, if we just come together around her deal, then we can still be out, and we still can get out before we have to have the European elections. And thinking back to my time in number 10, I remember that was always the thing. We triggered Article 50 in March of 2017 because it was about being out before the European elections. It was always the big thing we wanted to avoid, and it can still be done.
Henry, do you think that there's the changing deadline? I mean, it could have been a year. That was what some in the EU were pushing for. That it's the autumn, that it could potentially be the end of June. Do you think that will help her in some respects? Will it help focus minds?
I don't know. I think that in some respects it's the sort of anti-Goldilocks extension. So you could have had a very short extension that forced MPs to actually make a decision and perhaps locked us out of the European elections. Then there would have been a hard deadline, a cliff edge, where we had to decide, and there are only really 3 choices. Leave without a deal that Parliament will block, leave with a version of this deal, or don't leave by revoking Article 50. Everything else is a dressing on top of that. But there wasn't a short extension. There wasn't a very long extension, which could have allowed you, if you want a second referendum, to have that, if you want to have a general election, to have that. But that's also not there. So you've got this sort of middle ground, limbo position, where I think nothing will change. I think the MPs are running away from their actual decision-making responsibilities. We pay them public money to decide on our behalf, and they're just running away from that. There are only 3 choices, as I said, and I think Parliament will do whatever it takes to block no deal. So either if you want to leave the EU, you're going to leave with this deal. You can put a different bow on top of it and call it a customs union, or you can call it Common Market 2.0, but that's just changing the non-binding bits of the deal. The withdrawal agreement, the draft treaty, is going to be exactly the same. If you don't like that and you don't want to leave, you don't want Brexit, then be honest and say you want to cancel it. But I just think nobody is really facing that actual choice. So I think what this summit has left us in is at a position where we're just going to have more Groundhog Day discussions, the exact same arguments we've had for 3 years, and the country feels paralysed.
So, Chris, what do you think is more likely, that we're all stood here on October the 31st, Groundhog Day, or between now and then we see a second referendum, or between now and then we see a new Prime Minister?
I think it's very difficult to imagine what's going to change. I mean, as Henry said, the sort of pressure has slightly been taken off MPs now with this extension. So it's difficult to imagine now how people will come together around a deal, because I think with this extension, and sort of in many ways the sort of message from last night was that the EU will continue to allow us to extend. So people who sort of want a second referendum will see the opportunity to have that, so they'll dig in on that, and people who want general election will do the same. And so no one's got any incentive to move at this point. So we could very well still be in exactly the same situation, having exactly the same discussions. I think on the point of leadership, though, the fundamental point is that the Conservative Party rules mean that the Prime Minister cannot be challenged until December, having won the confidence vote last December. So there is no mechanism to get rid of her. And she has been very clear that she is not going to leave until Brexit is delivered, and that is her absolute commitment. So it's really difficult to see anything changes. And you can, foresee a scenario where we're here for many months yet, listening to the same people shouting the same things, and fundamentally nothing changing.
Deep joy. Henry, do you feel, in terms of leadership, that the ERG rather shot themselves in the foot by holding that leadership challenge when they did? Because now it would have been something that they could have used to change the situation.
Well, unquestionably, there have been miscalculations, certainly on that side. I think if we had managed to persuade every Conservative MP to vote for her deal when she last brought it back, which was just the withdrawal agreement, on the 29th of March, which was supposed to be Brexit Day, we would be out the EU. That's the sort of the insanity of the current position. The Labour Party also running away from their responsibility. They whipped their MPs. 80% of parliamentarians in total voted to trigger Article 50. And they're now saying, oh, no, we don't want no deal, but we also don't like this deal, when they want to have a customs union, or at least the benefits of a customs union, when there already is a customs union essentially in the heart of the current deal. It's called the backstop. So there's just this unreality all over the place. But I think if MPs really focus on what's actually available, what are the real choices. This deal offers the only path to securing Brexit. So if you're a Conservative Eurosceptic, you should be voting for this deal. And if you're a Labour MP who wants to see Brexit delivered, you should be voting for this deal as well. And I think there's a lot of fatigue in the country, and the Prime Minister has been terrible. She's lost Chris's services, and she's been terrible at selling her deal, at explaining actually the benefits that she got. And I think it got a terrible reception that was framed through the resignation of key ministers. So our understanding of the deal was shaped by that, rather than the substance of what she achieved, which actually was quite impressive. What she's really secured is a worst-case scenario where we get to a trading relationship with the EU, precisely what Eurosceptics spent decades telling us they wanted to go back to. And the deal secures the Irish border is open in all circumstances, tariff-free trade in goods, it protects citizens' rights in the EU and in the UK, and also guarantees a standstill for business. That's actually quite a good package if you sell it like that. But she's been so bad at explaining it that we just get lost in this language of process rather than try to focus on what we're actually achieving here.
Chris, you obviously know her well from your time in Number 10. How do you think she's feeling today? I mean, in realistic terms, this is somebody who thought that we were going to have left the EU by the end of March. You know, if you ever have a deadline in your own life, you kind of work towards that, don't you? How do you think she feels the prospect that she may be stuck in this role that she possibly thought she was going to be able to walk away from until the autumn?
Well, I'm not sure that she feels she's stuck in the role. I think she would like to continue along with anyway, but she did make the concession about saying about
really?
leaving.
You really think she wants to stay?
Absolutely, and there's still people in Number 10, I think, who think it would be possible to sort of have some sort of reset and achieve other things. That it seems unlikely. But how's she feeling? I think she's feeling enormously frustrated. I mean, Henry has laid out the choices before MPs very, very clearly. He's absolutely right, and you know that's the kind of thing the Prime Minister says time and time again. She's hugely frustrated that having worked non-stop for now nearly 3 years to deliver Brexit, she came up with a deal. I completely agree. The deal is actually a very good deal. It's been really, really badly sold. She can't understand why Conservative MPs in particular, who've campaigned for this for years, simply won't vote for this deal, and why will they won't let it through. So she feels, as she said in her statement the other week, that actually Parliament is letting the public down now. They do need to actually make a decision. She feels she's done the best job she can on that. I think what you saw with the talks and the reaching out to Jeremy Corbyn last week was a recognition as well that Brexit really is now starting to sort of destroy everything it touches. You know, the political process is sort of stalemate. Everyone here is shattered and tired. The Number 10 operation is shattered and tired. The country feels the same. So that was a genuine offer to just say, right, let's just find a solution, any solution really at this point to sort of actually deliver the Brexit people voted for. She's always just been focused on doing that, and she's frustrated that MPs won't vote for it.
OK, well, they certainly are in fine voice here.